The World Bank expects economic growth in sub-Saharan Africa of 2.6% this year, expanding to 3.2% in 2018 and 3.5% a year later. The slight rebound has been driven by a recovery in oil production in Nigeria, higher public spending in Angola, and the fading of drought effects in South Africa. That's according to IMF's Regional Economic Outlook. After registering the worst decline in more than decades in 2016, Africa's economy was on a rebound, with GDP growth up 2.6% this year compared to 1.3% in 2016. Economies in sub-Saharan Africa were helped by higher commodity prices, but analysts warned that the continent needs to do more to boost per capita income and create jobs. According to the World Bank's Africa's Pulse, biannual analysis on the state of African economy, sub-Saharan Africa's economies were hit by lower commodity prices, which has slowed growth, slashed government revenues, and weakened several of the currencies on the continent.
Our countries need to strengthen and deepen the macro and structural reforms to sustain growth in the long run. These reforms would have to include the strengthening of institutions for private sector growth.
In Africa's biggest economy, Nigeria, a recession continued to bite, leading to protests. For most of 2017, Nigeria battled with a currency crisis brought on by low oil prices, which tipped its economy into recession and created chronic dollar shortages. Annual inflation is at 17%, and the United Nations estimates that 70% of the population live on $1 a day, a situation that prompted widespread anger over the handling of the economy.
I'm an ordinary Nigerian. I'm an oppressed Nigerian. I'm a frustrated Nigerian because the system is not working. At some point, we must ask ourselves that what has caused us to be in this present state? Is it because Nigerians are not talking enough? Is it because the leaders have the power to keep oppressing us? No, it is simple, because Nigerians are indifferent. And our indifference gets to an extent where we need to find expression.
In Ghana, a major exporter of oil, gold and cocoa, President Nana Akufo-Addo announced that the country will not extend its 3-year aid program with the International Monetary Fund beyond April 2018. The country is currently under a $918 million aid program with IMF to restore fiscal balance to an economy dogged by large deficits, high public debt, and sluggish growth.
We have to continue to work to bring down the cost of borrowing, to enable businesses to have access to much-needed credit. It is my hope and expectation that these statistics will soon translate into tangible benefits in the lives of Ghanaians.
A sluggish economy and a drought that drove food prices higher made life difficult for many Zambians this year, as the country felt the effects of a drop in demand for copper that has in turn left the economy struggling.
The cost of living in Zambia has actually risen so high that usually I find myself spending more than 50% of my income just to travel to and from work.
In neighboring Zimbabwe, the country's ongoing political and economic woes culminated in a cash shortage that forced people desperate for money to camp along pavements, sleeping in bank queues as they wait to access their savings. Cash shortages also saw banks impose daily maximum withdrawal for most Zimbabweans of sometimes as little as $50 per day.
The crisis is basically a crisis of confidence. There is very little confidence in the economy in general and in the financial sector, in the banks in particular. And this is shown by the dearth of new cash deposits into the system.
Analysts project sub-Saharan Africa economic growth to pick up in 2018, led by Nigeria and South Africa, the continent's two top economies.